Hi, welcome back to CEO IQ. We're glad you're here. We've got an opportunity to be back in our studio with Carol Coughlin of BottomLine Growth Strategies today. Carol, thanks for being with us again. It's great to have you.
It's great to be here, Ben.
We're going to talk about outsourcing your CFO functions with Carol. She runs a company called BottomLine Growth Strategies that focuses on providing CFO services for entrepreneurial and fast-growing companies, privately held companies, companies that need financial support that may be a little beyond what you're thinking about right now. Now, as you know, if you've seen these before, we talk about action learnings in each one of these fireside chat segments. And there are 4 things we want you to come away from this chat with in your head to think about. One is know when to outsource your CFO functions. The second action learning is to make sure you're getting CFO services when you outsource and not just accounting services. The third is to get the most bang for your dollar out of outsourcing. And finally, how outsourcing can give you room to grow. So Carol, outsourcing is a hot topic, oftentimes in a negative way when we talk about outsourcing jobs to India or wherever it might be around the world these days. Interesting thing about CFO outsourcing is it's pretty much a homegrown process. What do you see about when people ought to think about outsourcing and knowing when to call BottomLine Growth Strategies?
Well, Ben, it's usually that a CEO needs to outsource before they think they do. And some of the things that we see are, number one, the CEO is pulled into the mire of financials, the nitty-gritty, and they're not working on their highest and best use, that is selling or whatever it is they do best. The second is that maybe they've grown and their team hasn't. And so they have some issues getting financials out on time, getting good financial information to make decisions. A third may be around a huge growth event, such as a huge contract or just a large trajectory in revenue, and really needing to plan for the impact of that growth on their cash needs.
So Carol, once you've decided that it's time to think about outsourcing, how do you make sure that you're going to get the right services? Do I just call my CPA firm?
That's a great question, Ben, and one we get very frequently. What is the difference between what a CPA firm does and what a CFO services company does? CPAs are one of the highest level trusted advisors for a business. They help with their taxes and their compliance information, but they're not the best choice for a CFO, particularly because they often haven't had the opportunity to sit in the hot seat of a CFO. They may not have had the opportunity to figure out how to work with operations, how to scale up, those kinds of things that happen not theoretically, but really on the job. Some have, but most have not had that opportunity. The second thing is that we're looking at strategy. The accounting is really important. It's critical for the foundation. We want to make sure that information is right because you can't build a building on styrofoam. And so that's got to be right. But the financial strategy in terms of how do you price, what kind of financing, should we do debt versus equity, et cetera, M&A conversations, those are often kinds of conversations you want to have with someone who's actually had that experience as a CFO.
So if I'm at the point of thinking that it's time to do this, maybe give you a call, how do I get the most bang for my buck out of outsourcing CFO services?
Well, it's getting the type of experience you need when you need it. So what we often see is a CEO who's saying to himself, I only have $70,000 in my budget, not knowing that a CFO part-time option is out there. Gee, I'll look for someone with $70,000 because that's all I can afford. They're never going to get a qualified CFO for $70,000. They may get a senior accountant. And so from the beginning, they've put the wrong person in that slot. What is so wonderful about outsourced CFO services is that they can have the kind of people that they need with the industry experience, the M&A, the turnaround, whatever it is they're looking for at a fraction of the cost.
So it can be a really great choice. One of the things that I hear you talk about frequently is that outsourcing your CFO can help give you room to grow as an entrepreneur. Tell our CEO IQ members how that can happen for them.
That's a great question. The thing about CFO part-time is it's part-time. So if a company needs a day a week or a day every other week, that's possible. As they grow, they can have more services. As they're ready to move into a full-time situation, a really excellent CFO can help them transition such that they can get a permanent person in that spot that's just right for their company.
Carol, thanks for being with us today. We've been chatting with Carol Coughlin of BottomLine Growth Strategies about when you should think about outsourcing your CFO. Carol, just review the 4 action learnings we'd like our members to take away from today's chat.
Yes, they are knowing when to outsource, watching out for CPAs and CFO clothing, getting more CFO for your dollars, and then giving yourself room to grow.
Thanks again for being with us. How do people find you out there on the web?
www.bottomline-growth.com.
CEO IQ members, thanks for being with us for another Fireside Chat. We're glad you're here.